2014 Astrology Night, the first Wednesday night of every month except for January 2014, when it's the second Wednesday night of the month here at SoulFood Books in Redmond, Washington.
And for those of you who would like to share tonight's information, Rick and I do post the videos. They're on YouTube. You can find them through stariq.com. That's STARIQ.com. They'll be up tomorrow afternoon.
The video fixed this time?
I hope so.
We hope so. We're gonna do our best to put the chipmunks to rest for those who were puzzled by the last month's noisy production.
No, we were talking really fast last month.
All right, now for the real beginning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jeff.
What a new year this is from an astrological perspective. As we mentioned to you last month, the new moon was on January 1st, the very first day of the year. So we get the beginning of the monthly lunar cycle. We get the beginning of the month and the beginning of the year all on the same day. And although the calendar per se is not astrological, we think the quality of this new moon may have something to do with not only our experiences for this lunar month, but perhaps for the rest of 2014.
Yeah, and it's unusual for a new moon to occur on the first day of the year, and this one was doubly unusual because there were so many planets involved in a particular pattern that reinforces the pattern that Jeff and I and astrologers all over the world have been talking about for a couple of years. We'll continue to be talking about it for a couple of years, but it basically puts 2014 into the mix of this particular pattern in a major sort of way.
Right. Those of you who are students of astrology or interested in the subject of astrology know that what we look for the big lasting trends are the movements of the outer planets. The outer planets move slowly, their contacts last longer, they're less common, and they're more powerful. And beginning back in 2012, revolutionary Uranus and transformational Pluto began a series of 7 stressful squares or right angles with one another that last until early 2015. What does that mean? Personal and institutional change. We've talked about it before. We're going to talk about it again. But this new moon fell right into the middle of this world-changing pattern that we've been talking about for a couple of years.
Right, and if you look at it, you can see what we astrologers call a grand square. Okay, this leg here is missing, but imagine it. And we have Uranus, 90 degrees or square, not only to Pluto, but Pluto is lined up with Mercury and the Sun and the Moon. The Sun and the Moon line up at the new moon. And so we have the new moon lined up with deep, dark, underworld Pluto, the intense, passionate planet, lined up with Mercury, the communicator. And these planets are all opposite Jupiter, and they're all 90 degrees or square to Mars on this side, 90 degrees, give or take a degree, to wild and crazy Uranus on the other side. This is highly unstable, but also highly formative in creating structure for the year ahead, even though the structure here is a bit unstable.
Yeah, and when we talk about structure, we often think of Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign that has to do with establishing a plan, committing to that plan, and then patiently working toward fulfilling it. However, it better be a freaky plan if it's going to work.
Right.
Because with death and rebirth Pluto, and with revolutionary Uranus as part of the picture, applying persistence, commitment, and consistency to something that's radically new and different in your life probably has a better chance of coming to fruition than just trying to run the most cautious and stable traditional program that you've already got rolling.
So one of the things to perhaps do, one of the exercises that we could each practice in our minds, is to look back over the last couple of years and then look at what was going on for you around the holidays of this year, Christmas to New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and even the first few days, first week of the year, right up until now. What are the issues? What is it that you've been dealing with? Not the specific event, but energetically, how does that bring up for you or tie into some of those things that you've been either trying to push away, move through, move beyond, grow from? What habits are you trying to change, and how does this fit into that picture? Because it's not over yet. This will be back again every 3 months for the next couple of years as we process this issue or these issues, because we're talking here about a deep and profound and powerful set of changes that isn't just about making New Year's resolutions like we do every year.
Yeah, one of the great things about Capricorn is that it can apply itself to accomplish almost anything. The great talent of Capricorn, symbolically, is purpose and focus and commitment. So it is with work, it is with showing up for whether it's something personal, whether it's something professional, something social and political that really makes a difference this year. But a couple of things I'd like to add. As an exercise, think about something you would have liked to have gotten done in your life or would like to get done that almost feels impossible. Because the outer planets, Uranus and Pluto, have to do with taking us beyond the boundaries of the known. And if we're aiming within the narrow confines of familiar goals and ambitions, then we're not necessarily going to resonate with the transformative power of both Pluto and Uranus. Now, there's always a price to be paid, particularly when Pluto is part of the story, because Pluto is about addition by subtraction. What do you need to get rid of in your life? A person, a job, a pattern of behavior, or perhaps a set of beliefs. Jupiter is the planet of beliefs and truth. Its role in this new moon suggests that we may be very capable of justifying all sorts of safe and cautious Jupiter and protective Cancer stories. But the trick is not to retreat to the past. It is to extract your wildest, most interesting, and most compelling ideas from the past and to see what you would have to do in yourself to make those happen. It's almost as if playing it safe is probably the unsafest thing you can do.
Right.
Because this is a big wave. And you can't sort of handle a big wave as if it was a little one. But if you can rev yourself up with desire, with passion, with intensity, and with commitment, well, you could ride a wave almost as far as you can imagine.
Yeah, you know, Jeff, as you were talking, I began to think that what you said is correct, in as much as this wave is so large we can't resist it. And yet, sometimes when we're going through changes, knowing when to hold tight and when to relax and go with the flow is part of the game. And we might hold tight to something because we're afraid of change. On the other hand, we can hold tight while we're getting ready to make the major change. And this, because there's so many planets, there's 5 planets, there's the Sun and the Moon and Mercury and Venus and Pluto, all in Capricorn, which is about conserving energy to make sure that you can go the distance. Capricorn is the sign that will not run out of water when it's crossing the desert because it's figured out, it's calculated how fast it walks and what it needs to get to where it's going. And so from that standpoint, even though what you said is correct, there's something about this pattern at the beginning of this year that this may not be, or this may not have been over the last week or two, the right time to release the arrow and head out on that journey. But it also may not have been the right time to think about going back to the past there's this sense of holding on enough so that we can get the maximum flow.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, particularly because the new moon, as we say here every month, is the beginning of a monthly cycle. And as mature and ambitious as Capricorn might be, still a new moon in Capricorn is the beginning of a cycle. And the beginning of a cycle is when we've got to tune things up inside of ourselves. And I think the notion of the idea of timing is really interesting because Capricorn is ruled by, that is associated with, the planet Saturn. And Saturn is the Latin name for the planet that the Greeks called Chronos, time, or father time. And the mastery or the appropriate use of time is, I think, a very important ingredient in the process of transforming our lives. Now, this can operate in a number of ways. If you are stuck in habitual patterns of having to do certain things in certain times, it might be worthwhile to shake them up. And yet, if you lack discipline and consistency in your life, showing up for something, whether it is your yoga class, whether it is, calling your mother, whatever it is, that scheduling something new that's relevant to your ambitions and continuing to show up for it can be a positive way to get that timing attunement that Rick is talking about. That sort of monkeying with and examining your own rhythm, I think, puts you in touch with a deeper understanding of the rhythm you need, or that you need to break, to change your life in a positive way.
We have a couple of other things here that I think add to the story or corroborate this idea that things aren't moving quite as fast as we'd either like them to, or that in some way things are going to take longer to get to where we're going. One of these two things is the fact that last month Venus raced through Capricorn, and then at the end of December on the 22nd,
First or second.
Venus stopped in its tracks, turned retrograde, and stays in Capricorn, goes back across the sun. We'll get that later this month. And in a way, because Venus is the least retrograded planet of the planets, when Venus retrogrades, often what we want, what we desire, the nice things, seem to be delayed. And of course here Venus is in Capricorn, which is like a double delay, because Capricorn, being the planet of Saturn, holds things back. So this Venus retrograde is one piece of the puzzle that makes a fast-moving planet like Venus not moving all that fast. We're not getting as ahead or to where we want to get to with what we like or what we want or what we value. That's Venus. The other piece is Mars. Although Mars is not retrograde, Mars is in Libra, which it doesn't like being in, because a planet typically doesn't like being in the sign that's opposite its home sign. Mars's home sign is Aries, the opposite sign is Libra. Mars wants to get angry, it wants to have a fight, it wants to express its anger, and in Libra it has to do it nicely and take everyone else's needs into consideration. It's a hard place for Mars to be Marsy. On top of that, over the next couple of months, Mars is continuing to slow down, and it turns retrograde in Libra, spending 8 months in Libra rather than the 2 months that Mars typically spends in each sign. Point being that we have all these planets and the new moon in Capricorn starting the year, with Venus in Capricorn moving backwards and Mars in Libra not moving very forward.
Join astrologers Jeff Jower, Alan Oken, Aaron Sullivan, and Lauren Albandian for the Wisdom of Astrology Conference from March 29th to April 4th, 2014 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. For details and registration, go to alanoken.com or click the link on the front page of stariq.com.